you had this sort of epiphany doing a darkroom meditation, which I haven't done yet. It's the one thing that kind of scares me.
It's in the middle of nowhere. They found me in a cafe at a John of God retreat. And so I go in there and they tell me,
welcome to The Conscious Rising. Today I'm really excited to have on the show Pavel Aeon, an impact entrepreneur, co-founder of Upper Aeon, which is a transformational platform for wellness and longevity. What is biohacking and what is longevity really?
So a lot of people think it's a shortcut or it's like cheating, right? But it's actually quite the opposite.
Dave Asprey says we can all technically live to 160, which for most people sounds bonkers.
The next 10 years are going to be crazy.
Pavel, welcome.
Thank you so much. And what a journey to meet you, to spend this time with you. I'm honored.
It's such a, one of those synchronicities, right? I flew in for your system reset, and here we are the next day doing a podcast. So thank you for making it happen.
Absolutely.
So just quickly then, tell us a little bit about your journey to this moment, because, this is your first time, I think, doing system reset in Singapore. And you've had quite a multifaceted career and you're super young. So tell us a little bit about your journey from entrepreneur to this transformational coach.
Yeah. You know what's ironic, actually? The last time I was in Singapore, I was like 18 years old. I was on the way to Bali and I was actually in massive depression, anxiety, and I got diagnosed with Epstein-Barr, with chronic fatigue. And I literally used to be sick every 2 weeks. And it's actually ironic. Like that's literally the last time I went through Singapore. I spent a New Year's here. And it was one of those flights, you know how you can you can land, spend a New Year's, and the next day fly to Denpasar. Yeah. And what's interesting is it's actually one of the main pivotal moments in my life that brought me here, because I left Europe at that time because I just needed to find something new. Like I wanted to go surf. I wanted to find myself and really forgive myself for all the hardships that I put on my body, because I was a professional athlete. So I was a professional cyclist and I started my first company when I was 17 years old. And it was a simple choice from my dad. You go to school, your life is paid for, you do your little cycling thing and you're going to have to figure it out. And so being in a cycling world, I saw a huge missing link. The carbon bike frames are really expensive. And especially if you had an up and coming, kids like myself, how do you buy $5,000, $10,000 frames? And so I went on Alibaba. This is like 20 years ago when nobody trusted Alibaba yet in US or Europe. And I took the picture from the, bike frame on Alibaba, posted it on eBay, sold it on eBay, used the money to purchase the bike from the factory in Taiwan or China, and then drop shipped it to US or Europe. And so this was pre-dropship, my first business.
You were like the inventor of dropship.
Well, not on that scale, but it was hilarious because I started with nothing and then I grew it into this, sizable company, creating custom bike frames. So my whole thing was, I go to a bike store and they can sell Specialized or Trek, the expensive bikes, or they can have the same frame, right? Same quality, but with their brand. And so that was, I ended up, cycling around the world. I went back into that. And as I'm cycling, I'm using all of the cities and countries to start, doing meetings with all of these bike stores. But essentially, I gotten so far into exhaustion that there was a race, that Czech national race, that I literally, my body shut off. I woke up in the hospital and I literally didn't know how did I get there. I was completely overexhausted and it ended my cycling career quite early. And so instead of me recovering, right, and focusing on the good parts of cycling, which is like, you're riding 7-8 hours on a bike every day, I was on a calls with factories, manufacturers, and customer service. And so that was the next pivotal moment. I decided to move to US and start a business there. Essentially put all my endurance into, growing businesses. And I went from a sushi restaurant in Boulder, Colorado to get a visa all the way to a Tutti Frutti frozen yogurt chain in Hawaii. Do you remember the frozen yogurt era?
That was a while ago, but yeah.
With the machines, yeah, it is a while ago. And then I got sick and tired of making people fat because I was on this health journey. And so I flew to Florida. And I discovered this thing called Orange Theory Fitness. And this is when there was only 6 locations worldwide. Now it's like 2,000. And I was 22 or 23 years old. I drive into the headquarters. There's literally 5-6 employees. That's it. Now it's like 350, crazy the difference. And I'm like, hey, can I franchise, one of your regions? Is there some room left? And I think they were cool. Like I had some history, right? Like already exited from 2 businesses, but who is this guy, right? Like they basically gave me 2 days to buy Georgia State. With 55 locations, like units. And if I don't get it in 2 days, which was the dark period in franchises, they call it the franchise redisclosure every year, then they would have just kept it and basically, boxed me out of it. So I ended up making it all happen. Within 2 days, I was in a car driving up to Atlanta, Georgia, where I've never been before. And within 6 months, we became the fastest growing region in the entire chain.
Wow.
And I ended up partnering with the president, with the CEO of the company, and we grew it into this, what we call the super urban project. And so we start opening them, I had Oregon, Hawaii, Bay Area, parts of Florida, New York. And so by the time I was about 26, 27 years old, I had almost 100 licenses that I managed under myself, with, about 500 employees in that scope. And I was this kid that didn't really do anything but worked hard and didn't know nothing about American, ways of doing business, and kind of learned through all the mistakes. And then, I start exiting after I burned out again. And so the last little piece I'll share with you is during the Orange Theory era, I kept on deciding that every 3 to 4 months, I'm going to do something outside of my box, as a busy entrepreneur, to keep on discovering what is this voice telling me. And I've always had these voices inside my heart saying there's more to life. We didn't come here just to work our asses off to do what, And so I ended up traveling the world, going into samurai camp in Japan, to Zen master training. I spent a month with the psychics in Brazil. And it wasn't until I went into darkroom for the first time, which is about 8 or 9 years ago, that I spent 10 days in complete darkness with no food, no light, just water. And walk in there as a busy entrepreneur, right? Just want to leave my cell phone behind. And I went into this brutal pain with my mind, like this fight. And, we all have a monkey brain. We all constantly overthink, overanalyze, and this thing gets heightened right in there. So it took me 7 days to finally surrender. And I went into this beautiful peace at day 7, and I start crying, and I just had this beautiful, blissful state, on nothing, right? Just dark hall in the middle of Thailand.
Just a dark room and water.
Just the dark room and water. And for the first time, I was able to silence my mind enough that I start getting this overflood of thoughts. Like, what do I actually want? When am I going to go after this? And basically, what do I want from life? When I grow up, at things that we forget as we get older to dream. So I start dreaming, and one of those things that I got was my passion, which has always been music. So when I walked out of the dark room, I hired somebody to teach me how to produce music, how to DJ, and I do it with solfeggio frequency. The second thing I got out of there was my purpose, and that was, you've been through all of these things and workshops and retreats, it's time for you to share this with others. So I started doing events, workshops, lectures to educate others on these tools. And then the third part that I got out of it was legacy. And that's true legacy. What do I do with, living in service? How do we create companies, support different brands that, we do today with our Upper Aeon? Is how do we bring all of these people together, and how do we, accelerate this thing we call Earth 2.0? So long story short, that was the biggest pivotal moment. And now, we travel the world. We do 100 to 140 events a year. We work with CEOs, executives, to retreats, workshops, conferences. And that's where I met you. It was biohacking conference.
That's right, the Dave Asprey.
Dave Asprey, yeah.
In Texas, Austin. Amazing. I mean, you're super young still. you had this sort of epiphany doing a dark room meditation, which I haven't done yet. It's the one thing that kind of scares me. I got to say, I've done a lot, but the dark room meditation, for most people, you wouldn't recommend it as the first jumping off point, right? It's more of an advanced technique. But would you say that voice that came to you, who was that? Was that you? Was it your higher conscious, your subconscious? Was it your spiritual guides? Who gave you that kind of information?
So this is actually something interesting. I've learned this in Brazil. And so I went into this psychic village by accident, like crazy, wild story.
You have a lot of accidents, fortuitous ones.
Those are great accidents. Nothing is an accident, by the way, if we can start with that.
Yeah.
Now I see it as that's just part of our journey.
Yeah.
But here's what I did. Most people, they close their mind and they close their heart. And that's, unfortunately, the life that we live in. We have these masks, these walls. But the one thing I've always tried to really be very careful with was keep my heart open, keep my mind open to whatever comes. And anytime I did that, I kind of surrendered into whatever the life wants to give to me. We magnetize these things and they get accelerated. So I always knew, follow the butterflies. So not fear, right? If there is a fear of death, right? That's a true physical fear. But if you follow your butterflies, you start pushing your limits, your boundaries, and you step outside of the comfort zone. So I go into this village, right? And again, busy entrepreneur. Like, I don't believe in any of this just yet, right? Not the scope where I'm at.
What age are you?
26,
okay,
7.
So really, yeah.
Yeah. So still quite young, but like somewhat open, right? But not fully yet. And so I go in there and they tell me something so simple. We've got the 5 physical senses, which gets us in trouble. Overconsumption, too much sensory, anything that we see in the traditional money, sex, power, paradigm. And then we've got 4 mystical senses that everyone has, but we stop trusting them. We do not develop them and we are not taught how to use them. So the first sense is inner hearing. And the reason why I'm telling you this, because you asked me about the voices. And so there is the lousy monkey mind, that doesn't shut up, right? 95% of all of our thoughts is just a repetition. 80% of them, based on recent study, are negative. So imagine if you have this negative Nelly that keeps on telling you how you're not good enough or can't, you won't, all the limitations. And if we believe in that negative Nelly, that's what our life then becomes. So they taught me that there is this subtle voice that we also all have, and it's the inner hearing, the little whispers that I'll give you some examples. Maybe at night, it tells you, turn off the Netflix. Maybe it says, start working out. Quit drinking alcohol, whatever those voices are, it always has your back. And most of us know that it's at the background, but we don't follow them. So that's the first one. The second one is your inner feeling. And there's fancy words for this, like empath, right? But I like to keep everything very simple and grounded for everyday life. And so this is the empaths of the world. You have a wrong feeling about someone, a decision, or if you've ever walked into a room and there was a fight before you gotten in there, something didn't feel right? So that's your inner feeling. Then you've got your inner knowing, which is your intuition, as many people would call. And that one is the hardest one to discern. But I'll give you an example. If you knew that you shouldn't have gone to the party, or you've always known that that person was cheating on you, or in a business relationship, right? There's something just not right. It's in every bone of your skin. And when you think, you do not know. When you know, you do not require to think. So that's how you discern this. You're in your knowing versus thinking, right? And then the last one is your inner seeing, which is the visionaries of the world. And this is the people that see things before they happen. Maybe you have an idea about a product, right? From especially business visionaries. But then some people can see colors. Other people in a lucid dreaming can get inserts of things before they happen. So these are the 4 mystical senses. And the way we develop them is we acknowledge them. So for example, if you hear, turn off the Netflix, this is how you strengthen it is, thank you, I heard that. And the magic keyword is, what you gonna do about that? And so this is what I did. I start turning off the Netflix. I quit drinking alcohol. And I'm literally using myself as an example. So those are the things that I kept on getting. And then it started getting louder, stronger and stronger. So what happened for me is like now I have this integrated, sense or sixth sense that many of call us, but then I use my mind as the tool to put it into action, right, into the third dimension. And that's truly what I believe we came here to do, is use these limitless senses, ideas, visions, but then ground them and then utilize them on Earth.
Amazing. And this accident, these Brazilian psychics, can anyone go visit them, or was it just you? Was it a tribe in the forest, and you just stumbled upon it?
It's in the middle of nowhere. They found me in a cafe at a John of God retreat with John of God. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but I used to go to Brazil. He was one of the most powerful healers in our time. He's a conscious medium, and he would change literally eye color. Like, it was wild, and it was one of those wild things that I was like, let's go. And because of my Epstein-Barr, I want to try to heal it in a different ways. But then they found me there, and I ended up extending a month, driving somewhere 2-3 hours out of Abadiânia, was the city about 3 hours south of Brasilia.
Wow, what a story. What's your actual ethnicity? Because you're not fully American, right? I mean, are you an immigrant in the US, or you Eastern European, something like that?
Yeah,
you must usually Eastern Europeans are very connected.
Yeah, so
to generalize,
I was born and raised in Czech Republic.
Yeah,
but up until about 15 years old, then I was a foreign exchange student. I went to US. But my grandfather's from Egypt, so I have a family living in Cairo, and that's part. My grandmom's from Croatia, and they met in Prague. So a little bit of a blend.
All right. So you have two very interesting lineages. I mean, I get the sense that you have some sort of ancestral gift for this kind of work, right? Can anyone channel, or can anyone connect to these higher dimensions, whatever you want to call it?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. It's what you focus time on is what's going to grow. So just like we've become so good at mastering sales and marketing, right? It's we don't spend enough time to spend the time on the spirit and on the work of meditation, breath work. And so how you spend your time is what determines your frequency and vibration. So higher that gets, more connected you become, more instant and faster you can manifest, and also more faster you start receiving yes or no. Right. So I've built this superpower called power of questions. Question everything all the time. And it can be as simple as, does this trajectory of my life work? And does it not work? Do I want to continue doing this? Do I not want to continue doing this? And if there is no, you got to change.
Right.
That simple.
But, just walking through those 4 steps again, like a lot of people have those thoughts in their head. How do they differentiate them between this is the higher conscious, or this is my monkey mind? Can you just walk people through, like, and every day, should I do this deal? And then you're waiting for an answer, and you're like, I don't know if that's my monkey mind or that's my higher self. How does one discern the difference?
So it's a great question, because the highest level of our ego is actually spiritual illusionist. And so this is when reasons take over us, where we justify everything. So it's funny, in the spiritual community, you can actually find a lot of this, where people become so conscious that they're subconsciously conscious of consciousness itself. It's a mind fuck. And what I mean by it is literally people are like, oh, this is not spiritually good for me right now. Or like, oh, this is telling me. So there is a discernment in that. And on this path, we have to be super, super careful that we're not thinking we're special, that we're any better or different. The minute we start thinking that, it's the ego powering the way.
So I'm not special?
No, so this is the dichotomy. We are all special, right? But in our own ways.
We're all special. You're special. You're special.
But the ego thinks it's extra special, right?
Yeah.
So the key is having a practice where you have daily silencing. I do this thing called 8-point luscious lifestyle. And portion of it is that once a day, you spend time in meditation, breath. I like to do that first thing in the morning. because we're more prone to alpha brainwaves as soon as you wake up. And it's the best time of the day to keep those brainwaves going instead of, shutting that unseen, right? And then basically go straight into beta, which is the overly thinking, chronically analyzing mind. So first thing in the morning, learn how to silence. The second thing, throughout the day, even if you find 2-3 seconds here and there, let's say that you are on an email and between emails, you just pause, come back to breath, relax into your body, and then go back into email. Once you start making these pauses throughout the day and you're consciously becoming aware of them, all of these times you're opening yourself up to the mystical side of us or the unseen. And the issue is that because everything is in a pattern cyclical based, our mind thinks that it's dying when we're in silence, right? So our monkey mind will do anything for you to basically not stop watching TV, YouTube, social media. It's the dopamine hit that we're addicted to in that. So this is why more we can open up and slow it down, then more these senses will become clearer and clearer. And more you affirm them and more you follow what you've heard, even if it is mistake at first, don't be hard on yourself. There's try and error, and ultimately nothing is good or bad. You will always get there some way, right? So that's the beauty of life, that it's okay to fail. It's just our society that has built this weird ideas about failure. But more you fail, more you learn, more you grow. And sometimes those biggest failures bring you into the greatest experiences, So yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit about burnout in a bit, because I know that's what you kind of specialize in helping people avoid. Take us to, we kind of got to, you saw the psychics and then you decided what you're going to do next. How do we get to here, System Reset, 100,000 people you've worked with across the world through your events. How's that journey been?
It's been hard and also beautiful. Hard in the ways that I used to have this entrepreneur head on, right? So full on business, KPIs, understanding that piece, and then not fully bringing that into this world at first. And it actually, we've had lots of losses in that process. And even with our companies, I kind of said, I'm done with the business world, but then the money stopped pouring in, So I kind of went into the other extreme. And sometimes in the process it happens, then you almost, money's rude and evil. It's the other extreme, right, of the spiritual society. And so, that was the hardest journey. It was really integrating that it's okay to be wealthy. It's okay to continue growing companies and businesses, that everything is still of the same, right? Nothing is better or worse. So that part was really challenging. Of course, also, we're constantly on the road. We travel with our baby. She's a 2-year-old almost. And
she's so cute, adorable.
Yeah, and she's been through 20-something countries in her first 2 years. So that's wild. And I have 2 other kids, so we've got 3 total kids that travel with us on all the holidays.
Wow.
So they now help us. They're a little bit older, so they get paid with, setting up headphones and being part of the family. So that part is really beautiful, that we get to raise them in a different way where they can see both sides of the, spectrum. And then, for us right now, we're busier than ever. I mean, even though we do all of our events, we're also very active on the business side. So, we've just opened Amani in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, which is Asia's largest biohacking longevity facility. Then we're working on a longevity AI to help people personalize their health journey. And then we also are working on this self-regenerative, decentralized longevity town, which will have all of the things we've ever dreamed of under one, project.
Where's that?
Florida is the first one. And actually, I would love to bring it to Asia because the land is quite a bit cheaper and build outs here. So the vision is that we create a template around the world so people can travel from these towns to another town and have healthy oxygen, fully sustainable food, and all of the things that we've learned about health, longevity, and wellness in one town.
Amazing. Well, maybe Bhutan.
I've heard that.
So we'll introduce you to the people building the new sustainable city there. Okay, so I think for a lot of our listeners, a lot of them come from traditional, conventional C-suite backgrounds or executive roles, and they're now sort of dipping their toes into the spiritual world or wanting to do purposeful businesses. And as you say, and I've experienced this, like whenever you try and do purposeful things, it doesn't necessarily mean that money comes your way. In fact, it's actually been bad for business in most cases. Whenever I've just done purposeful things, it's actually been bad for business. How do we get past that?
It's so funny. I was just talking to my wife about this. It's like our world, economies, and everything is set up for very limited few, that if you fight enough your way and you do enough shady things, you're going to win, right? And it's like, how much and far are you willing to take it is really what makes the difference between how successful you're going to become. And so it's not always true, right? I think there's a huge shift in our environment. And just because so many people are waking up and are done with the old paradigm, we're starting to seek alternatives, right? So first of all, I think we need to create a new economy, which is kind of shaping underground. So that way we can actually start aligning and start working together as one, which is one of the reasons why we're creating the towns, because it will have a digital and physical platform with a currency system. So that way actually we can have all of these microcurrencies, because we're not the only ones doing this. There's plenty of people around the world seeing this, and I truly believe that what we're doing is we're building Earth 2.0, right? Whatever the meaning, some people call it New Earth. I just symbolizing that essentially there's no more war. There's no more, fighting. There's no more not having enough. We have enough. We use the resources. We share the resources. We operate out of the we instead of me. And if the last person is not winning, nobody else is winning, right? And that goes all the way to how do we treat Mother Earth, right? Like we've been taking and taking from Earth all of these years to a point where literally everything is toxic, right? From the water to the air. So there's going to be a huge piece, especially even with the rise of AI, that actually replenishing and healing and helping our Earth as the foundation, which is what I want to make the currency base, by the way. It's the Earth's currency. So that way, better the Earth does, better we do financially, right? And so what I think is, number one, it starts with you. So each and every one of us, go out there, read those books, do the work. Because if you don't do it and you don't, you're not that example, there's not going to be enough of us inspired to come together. Now, imagine right now, let's say, different hotel groups compete against each other or different, airline groups, right? And then they also are in partnership. So they're in partnership to basically do a bad business in a lot of ways that does not support the triple benefit. And so triple benefit is something very interesting. In a business world, we talk about win-win relationships, right? And if it's win-win, it's great. And I'll give you an example. Let's say, in America, there was the pipeline that we're going through the sacred land. And, the president had a deal with the people that are building it. And it was a win-win, right? Everybody making a lot of money. It's incredible. But then the pipeline burst. It killed all of this land, right? The sacred land, and that is not a triple benefit. So do you see the difference? So first of all, I ask now that may all my relationships come from a place of triple benefit, where it benefits me, benefits the person involved, but also the whole ecosystem that we live in. If you can start working off of this and have Earth in mind, then we stop making products, right, that are literally harming Earth to begin with. Now there's this support system that we start receiving from other people, because now imagine that we align with others that also are on this path. And I think I live in a bubble because we live in our own events and people that we meet. And so most of the entrepreneurs that I get to meet, they are conscious. They are, individuals that work on themselves. They do silence. They do meditations. They really understand that is the true wealth, is health. Right? So how do we use now all of these means that are overwhelmingly high in the world? And how do we create these funds that don't benefit one person, but how do we actually create this circular ecosystem where everyone can benefit, based on what our true heart's desires are? So I know I didn't give you a full answer, but I gave you a lot of open-ending answers, because I know you're listening. You're already having ideas as to, where do I start? Starts with you. How do I learn more? Connect with others that are like you, communities. And how do we then do it together? Maybe we start creating companies that are right off the bat, purpose-driven, that do not use manipulative techniques for sales. We use education. We use heart-centered, more female-based marketing from the masculine, 2.0 versions of things. So I have a lot to share on this. And we work with a lot of different entrepreneurs out there that have had this realization, and we kind of use the same functions that we've learned from business, but we're making it where from the messaging to the intention, everything becomes way more intentional.
Amazing. You must have had moments though where you thought, am I doing the right thing? Or like you mentioned burnout. Have you come to that point where you're like, I can't do this anymore, I'm going to go back to the conventional business world?
Many times, yeah. Especially, right before COVID, most of my businesses were either boutique fitness or I had venues like in San Francisco. We had basically everything that I owned was required for physical, group type based, experiences. And then we already were doing our events as well. So in the first 3 months, we canceled like 40 events, right? So that was a really insane. And at that time, I was in Houston, Texas, and basically we were working on the world's first ever biohacking hotel. And we bought this land, we bought the building, everything was going really well. We had investors to back it. But then as soon as COVID hit, everybody backed out. And so I got stuck literally with this huge building in downtown Houston.
Oh my goodness.
With 2 other partners that we did this. And I'm like, fuck, like, what are we going to do now? Like, we have no events, no income. Everywhere we look, it's just, going down now, all of our reserves, right? And so we had a company that was doing testing. So like hair tests, advanced biohacking tests. And so we literally had to convert it into COVID testing. And
smart.
Pivoting. So this just tells you how much I did not believe in that whole, way of how that happened. But yet God literally gave me a keys to not just survive, but actually thrive. And so for the next 2 years, we were busier than ever. We started to test IHG hotels. We start testing,
IG hotels?
Yeah.
Instagram hotels?
Yeah.
No.
IHG, the whole group.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Instagram hotels. No, that's a good idea.
Yeah. That would be actually great for content creators. But yeah, we tested like Home Depot, Sony Pictures, like all of these mega brands, right? The celebrities. And we were like the high-end concierge service to deliver tests, flip them around, because we had a clear license. We had all of the stuff from the testing business, right? And we converted Orange Theories into COVID testing facilities at the beginning. We used kind of the franchise model to let others to fulfill the need, because at that time we thought that the tests will bring our events back. So we were like, if this is a way how we can get around it. We had such a naive thinking and start at the beginning, and then we ended up, massively scaling this operation.
It's like the sort of, storm before the expansion, the destruction before the creation of the new you and the new business. So, I mean, I know you talk a lot about burnout in the system reset experience that you run. How does one personally recognize when you're on the edge of burnout? I mean, you've been there, I've been there. And what are the first signs that people should look out for?
Yeah, absolutely. And boy, my life used to be a roller coaster. I would just drive, go, and then completely fail, sleep, and I would be like unusable person. So I used to literally have 2 personalities. One was the Pavel at the peak, no burnout, and then there was the Pavel that when my autoimmune reactivated with the chronic fatigue and Epstein-Barr, I literally would be like, who were you? Like, why did you create all of these projects? Like, how am I supposed to do it right now? So I literally used to have 2 personalities. One of them that was saying like, I can't do this. This is so much. And then the other one, let's change the world. Let's like do everything, So because of this never ending up and downs, I start discovering a few things. There's a psychological burnout, which happens primarily with dopamine. that's more physical, but which primarily happens with not allowing time to rest, with overriding and over-agitated high beta brainwaves. And then the physiological burnout happens more with lack of serotonin, lack of dopamine. And then dopamine gives us that drive, right? Serotonin gives us the feelings of like, I can, I will. And once we run low on these, then we naturally start feeling fatigue. Usually you wake up in the morning and you don't feel rested, even though you had a sleep. Usually your sleep goes a bit worsens as well. You don't really have the motivation to exercise. You don't have that drive to just fire in the meetings. You know, like there's a whiteboard session where you're like on it and and there could be a whiteboard session where you're like, man, what was I thinking? You know, brain fog kicks in and you're like, what was the last thing that I said? And so that's a really big sign. The other sign is if you have children, you don't want to play with them. You have like nothing left. If you have a wife or a girlfriend, boyfriend, you don't want to give them any more energy because you're on a overdrive. And whenever you're overdrive, remember, if you don't have energy, if you don't come first, you cannot give anything out. And if you're constantly giving out more than you receive, as well as more than you nurture in your own self, then it goes far enough where it can convert into depression, can convert into a chronic autoimmune disease, sympathetic nervous system overreactivation, right? Nowadays, we live constantly in a fight or flight. And the crazy part about fight or flight is that it can be stimulated by an Instagram post, by a email, SMS, right? So how do we get out of it? I spent enough time getting us the dark.
You're in the darkness.
No, let's go. Let's go up. So I'm going to give you a tool. I call it the process of unhooking, and it's changed my life. I have never been busier than I am in this current moment, but I feel happier, healthier, and more harmonious than I've ever been in my whole life. And I call it, by the way, the Triple H effect: happiness, health, harmony. If you hit those three, you're doing something good, you know, because that's ultimately what we desire in life. Now, once a day, I spend the first half an hour to an hour of the day just by myself. Generally, I connected with nature. So I like to, see the sunrise, because then you can also turn on the physical body, right? So you can turn on the circadian rhythm. And I like to watch the sun go up. And the first 30 to 60 minutes is just about me. I breathe, I meditate, I visualize the most important meetings as if they're already happening. What are the outcomes that I want? So already your nervous system prepares and you don't feel that overreaction, right? I write, I use gratitude. I thank for my body, for my life. I then send the gratitude to my wife, families, friends, all the people. So that way you're in constant state of gratitude, which, scientifically, it's been proven to rewire your brain. So that's another beautiful buzz. And then a lot of times, if I can, I also do exercise, maybe a little bit of fitness, yoga, whatever I am at the given time, I do that. And then I go wake up my baby or wife, whatever, else is on the agenda.
Well, you're lucky that they're not up before you, because usually the kids are up before the parents.
Yeah. And so the key is you want to obviously adjust this however you can, and maybe you can flip it. That's okay too. The most important part is you do not go and see your notifications until you're done with your morning routine.
That's the kicker, right?
That's the most
first
important.
thing the alarm goes off, you check your phone, you've already lost that little game.
Yeah.
You have to put your phone somewhere else.
And honestly, it's okay if you have a meditation to play, right? But have it on airplane and then be strong enough. So by the way, also on my cell phone, I have no notifications. So ever. I literally, nothing will show. If I want to choose to look at WhatsApp, I look at WhatsApp. Yeah. And this morning, right? I know I didn't get back to you.
Pavel, are you coming? 10 o'clock. Where are you?
And I was like, I'm just doing my morning routine. So you caught me in a
But I kind of knew that you might be, so I wasn't freaking out.
Yeah, so that's the first thing in the morning. And that's actually, if you can take away one thing from today, literally, this is it. forget everything, because it all starts with your first choice in the morning. Life is made up of choices and consequences, but we think that consequences come to us from other people, other situation, but yet we forget there was a point that we have chosen this path, right? So if something happens with your business and you're like, why is this asshole again calling me in this? Well, you started the business, right? So like we have to take a full self-responsibility for every decision, every choice, and then life starts working for us. Not against us, right? So that's the first part. The second part is once a week, I spend full day off. And what I do during that time is the first half of the day, generally it's by myself. I go into nature. Ideally, you connect, you're barefoot into the grass, and I look at my past week. So I kind of do a little summary. What did I do right? What did I love? Where was I? Because we travel so much, I won't even remember sometimes what did I do on Wednesday, right? So it's a great way to actually preserve, see, and get clear. Also, what do you want to do next week to follow? And what does this remind you of? It's like our companies, right? We have a weekly, monthly, daily goals, and that's it. Little bits every day. You focus on yourself, so that way you come first before anything else happens out there. Once a month, I do a 3 to 4 day. And by the way, the once a week, I also fast digitally and physically. So that's been also very important for me to take a pause from.
At the same time?
Yeah. So digital fasting for the dopamine, physical fasting for the health, gut, energy, everything.
Just a water fast.
Yeah, right. Water. Sometimes it's half day. So, again, life is not about perfection. It's about continue flowing with whatever is, but discerning if it's the monkey mind that wants the cookies or if it's the inner mind that wants you to pause, right? So that's the key. Once a month, I look at the whole month, and it's 3 to 4 days because it's a bigger block. Now you've done 3 hard weeks. And by the way, imagine a lot of people are like, how can you take 3-4 days off once a month? And I'm like, how can you not? I'm so much more productive in those 3 weeks that I'm going all in, that I actually work 10 times as much as a regular person would because of the energy, the vitality, the focus that I have. So literally, people honor that, and people will honor you if you are the one that dictates this. And, we see this, especially a lot of people drinking alcohol, right? And it's like a social thing, especially in business. But what I was it was very difficult at first for me when I quit drinking, but then so many people were like, oh my gosh, I've always wanted to do this. So you become the anchor of a healthy, happy, harmonious lifestyle. You become that actual person that then can alter this for many, many people to follow. And so that's what I do once a month. And once a year, I spend 10 days in complete darkness. It's usually a 2-week vacation. It starts in 4 days for me, or September 3rd is when I'm going into the 6th one. So it will be 60 days that I have spent in darkness in my life after the end of it. And basically, this is when I look at the whole year. And the year passed. What do I want to experience in the following year? And so the reason why this is so important is you look at life in these blocks. It comes from my wife's cycle, actually, this idea, because once a month she's down, right? And what I've noticed, and this is actually proven, men have cycle too. We all live in this cyclical way. It's just not the same thing, and it's not talked about like for women. So whenever I'm up, she's down. Whenever she's down, I'm up. We literally have this like shift. So that way she kind of takes over, or I take over the regular household, life stuff. And that's literally where this came from. So I'm like, if this is the true, if literally everything works in these cycles, why don't we work with the cycles instead of against them? And especially, women now are waking up in the corporate world where they're starting to have breaks around the cycle, because again, what does it do for them? Make them that much stronger. It takes them time to reflect, right? So do you see what I mean? Yeah. Nature has all of this. We've just grown so far away from it. So that's my little solution for burnouts. That's really enlightening, actually, that you mentioned that. So 3 or 4 days a month where you just, taking that time to reflect. I must try a darkness retreat soon. So you must recommend that for us. So tell us why people should stop drinking alcohol, because in the past we grew up
alcohol was the way to numb the emotions, to get through it. But now a whole generation, the new generation, the young generation are turning away from alcohol. Why is that important for us?
It's been scientifically validated that even a little bit of alcohol is toxic to our body. Now, as we're waking up, why the hell would we ever take something toxic? And that goes for clothes we wear, air we breathe. That goes for products we purchase. So do you see how I was talking about Earth 2.0? Part of Earth 2.0 is that, the bedding we have, the cookware we have, everything works for us, not against us. We use this old paradigm of capitalistic mindset into, yes, still capitalistic, still growth, but purposeful growth, intentional growth. So alcohol, what I've noticed in my life, the minute that I quit it, all of the toxins on the inside quit the toxins on the outside because everything is reflection. And what our inner state projects is what the outer state projects back to us in a loop. And so what I found is actually so fascinating. I quit drinking alcohol, and then all of the decisions that I was making because of that after were causing me to go into a degenerative spiral. So if you think about longevity 101, right? How do we, if we simplify everything into the easiest way possible, it starts with your choices. You either do regenerative choices or degenerative choices. Now, degenerative choices is toxicity. You drink an alcohol. For some people, maybe you need to take drugs or Ambients or other, medicines or whatever we call it. Then you don't sleep. When you have a bad sleep, the next day you don't perform well. Then you choose not to work out because of that, no sleep. So it's this degenerative spiral, right? When you feel good, when you drink a green juice instead, when you decide to walk with the friends instead of go drink in a bar or at the beach, now you're getting the sunlight. Now you're getting the ionized air. Now you're grounding yourself on a foot. So do you see, you can do the same thing. You can live the same way, but you find a tribe that reflects the best of you instead of you continue reflecting the toxins around you. Right? So this is what I was saying about even the companies. We create these tribes and friends and people that are like us. So then we're like, what? You still drink? It's like the opposite, right? But this is the lesson and the invitation for you listening is, are you going to choose to be the example of the old paradigm, or are you done enough and you want to be healthy, you want to be progressive, you're ready to expand in every possible way? Then that is for you, is you start with those choices.
And if someone is tempted to drink out socially at a bar, what would you say? How do they sort of stop themselves? Do you have a hack for that?
So again, discernment. If it owns you, then you gotta put yourself out of that environment first until it doesn't own you. So the biggest, easiest discernment for this or any of this is, let's say it's nicotine. Because, in biohacking world, right? Little doses of nicotine are actually proven to be great for cognition, anything under 12 milligrams per day. But anything over that is addictive, especially through cigarettes, right? So it's, again, what type of a thing. But to be honest, so I love nicotine because of the cognition support, but I've gotten addicted to it. I kept on taking more and more. And I had to ask myself, does it own me or do I own it? It totally owned me. So I had to completely weave off, take a nice 30, 60 days, and then reintroduce it, maybe just 3 or 4 milligrams. That's it. So that's the discernment with, sometimes you want to go out and enjoy yourself, right? And maybe it's just one drink. And as long as you are a healthy person, right, you do the right thing, you take glutathione, you can take activated charcoals, there's ways to biohack it, right? Then totally fine. Just make sure you always have a check on that wiring, on your software, that mind,
You must have some sort of vice. It's hard for me to give up caffeine. Do you drink coffee, tea? Is that allowed?
Yeah. So it's funny. Same thing. I'm actually, so this dark room, what I've been doing, one of my biggest intention is get rid of all these dependencies, because especially with time changes, I would have, so I'll give you an example. I'll literally tell on myself, I tell myself that oh my gosh, I need to perform. I need to be on a stage and I got to work. So I'm telling myself all these things. So you got to have caffeine and, you got to do some nootropics and then the methylene blue. And so then I'm being ran by need to, have to, instead of choose to, right? So So the same way, this is one of my intentions for this following darkroom, is I've been weaving off everything. So about 45 days ago, I quit all nicotine. Then I quit all nootropics, so any of the, enhancers or smart drugs. And then the last thing that I kept was caffeine, because I still was running. I had like 7 or 8 events in the last 4 days. And the first one was in Phoenix, Arizona.
Wow. You look great.
Thank you. So that's the most important part. But I would not trust myself or know this unless I take the time to reflect. So do you see how important that reflection is? Because otherwise we continue overriding what that silence voice is telling us. And then we become too lost. And then it's almost like, like we were talking about, there's like parasitic energy and or toxic energy. It's like more parasites need more of the same, and more parasitic choices and thoughts and emotions. That's how this darkness, so to speak, gets fed. So we have to really clear that out of our system, detox it out, so we can be clear enough to know what actually is for our good.
We got about 15 minutes left, so I want to go a bit deeper into biohacking and longevity. Now, for someone who's a bit new to this space, and we were just alluding to some of your biohacking hacks, what is biohacking and what is longevity really? Because it's a bit of a buzzword. Can you explain how you see it?
So for me, it's really the 2.0, right? So I think many people want to live long. Like for me, it's not about the length, it's about the quality. So health span is the key. How long can you live healthily in a complete balance? Balance with the relationship to yourself, to your health, balance to the relationship with loved ones, because we forget to be with our loved ones, with kids. And then we repeat that same cycle, right, on earth, because they don't get enough attention, enough love. And then same thing, balance with career. So I always look at like a triangle of how we spend most time, and it's time with yourself, time with friends, families, human connections, and then times in career, our mission, whatever that might be. So if you look at that and you look at longevity, it's like, how can you create the environment that fuels you, nourishes you, that you don't burn out anymore? Now, the actual meaning of biohacking is taking charge of the environment inside you and around you based on the cutting edge science and studies. So a lot of people think it's a shortcut, or it's like it's cheating, right? But it's actually quite the opposite. You're being effective with what we know that current science shows. And to give an example, like I do this AI bike, it's called Carol Bike, and it's only about 8-minute exercise that stimulates 40-minute high intensity training, right? So 8 minutes, I can do 40 minutes. And what is that amazing for? More time with family, more time at work, right? So it's all about efficiency. Now, we know that our today's environment is taking, we don't have a healthy soil anymore. So supplements, understanding personalized health, understanding based on your data, right? Whatever it's HRV, EEG, or just a constant blood, urine, hair samples, know where you at every 3 to 6 months. So you keep on adjusting based on you. And those adjustments are kind of like the main biohacks. I'll give you the free ones and then the more expensive ones. The free ones is sun. Every single day, if you can wake up with the sun and go to sleep with the sun, sun is the power of everything. You want it to be actually on cover as much of a body part as possible because of not just vitamin production. We are 70% light beings. This has been proven in 70s already, but mainstream science doesn't take this because it's way too powerful for the everyday person to not rely on medical, industry.
Maybe you can just clarify that, because maybe some people don't understand what that means, that they're 70% light beings.
So we're made up of biophotons, and this is measurable. We can literally measure your biofield, and we do that in our events. We didn't do that yesterday, but in our big events, we actually measure the biophotons, biofield of the entire group. And this is how much light can our cells absorb. So what we're doing when we're on the sun, we're literally observing light, and light is crucial piece to produce energy, ATP, in our mitochondria. Mitochondria are power cells that are in charge of energy and many, many other important stimulus in your body. So healthier mitochondria, healthier body, healthier, health span, essentially. So that's why so much of the stuff that we do in biohacking is around mitochondria. And so sunlight, breath work, grounding, when you ground with your feet on grass or on sand, we get to discharge all of the, all the positive ions, and the air around the ocean or forest is charged with negative ions, which is incredible for our health, for our bodies. And this is why, in Europe, the doctors tell you, go to the ocean, right? When you get sick, go see the sun, because we just don't have enough sun, enough light. Now, what happens when we're in environments like this? There's blue light. Artificial blue light is what actually takes away our vitamin D, which lowers our immune system, which then, how do we offset it, right? We go back on sun. Now, if you cannot do those things, and if you are looking for a bit, faster approach, and also more scientifically or clinically studied approach, there's things like red light therapy. So we So we're
going to get into his biohacks here.
We basically build a company upon a few things. So one is the most important biohacks that we don't get in our everyday life. So this red light has a full spectrum, far and near infrared, and it actually goes on your gut and on your brain. And it shines, you just turn it on for 10 minutes. And usually I wake up with it, and it's the first thing that I would put on. We've also have meditations in there, and it has a pulsing frequency of light, as well as frequency of sound that we match together. So it's an incredible way to, start a day.
Well, you designed this, or you were involved with it?
We work with this. Yeah.
You were like helping with the, how to design. Yeah.
Yep.
Great. Maybe you can just switch it on and put it on, because it's quite a funny thing to see. But yeah. I actually bought one at the Dave Asprey at your event, the Dave Asprey biohacking. But it's not the most fashion friendly. But maybe it is in the future. I don't know. Maybe everyone's going to be wearing these. But people don't think of red light therapy as putting it on your head. So why is it important to put it on? Like, what's this doing for me right now?
So when you have a red light panels, right, you're actually quite far away from it. And so the absorption is not as great. So this is directly contact with your body and your mitochondria. Into your brain and into your gut.
Wow.
But our mitochondria are smart. So they're going to distribute it and take it where it's needed the most in the body. So this is why the only thing that could be better than this is like the $140,000 beds where you're literally laying down on
Immortals one.
Yeah, things like that. Or there's a few other ones. And we have these at Amani, like at our more expensive facilities, but it's not necessarily when you're traveling, right? So like whatever, like you're busy as well, so you would use something like this. We don't have the other one here, but we have something called a visor. Neurovisor.
I got that as well.
Yeah, and that's a flickering white light. And people love this, especially busy entrepreneurs, because within 6 minutes, it's a theta inducer. It helps with neuroplasticity. So it's like brain training 101. And nowadays, we don't have much time, right? So in 6 to 12 minutes, if you can make an impact, I always say with meditation, it's not about hours of meditation. It's how quickly can you adapt your brainwaves into that theta driven state, which is that restorative, meditative, mind. And so that's another one. Now, generic ones, we also love things like methylene blue. Methylene blue, it's photomodulates. So you know how we talked about light? So it gets activated by light, whatever sunlight or red light. So we always take this 15 to 30 minutes prior to red light, and then you can activate it. So really good stack.
This stuff makes your mouth go really blue though, right?
Well, if you swallow right away, it's okay. Yeah.
And what would you feel after taking some methylene blue?
So it's antioxidant, antiviral, antibacterial. It was originally found as a dye, and then they figured out that it eradicates malaria in 1800s.
Wow.
And so it's been around forever. There's thousands of studies proving the safety up to 4 milligrams per kilo. So 0.5 to 4 milligrams per kilo, very safe. Not every day. 3 to 4 times a week, weave in and out. Just like with everything, it's really important to keep your sovereignty, right? So it doesn't own you. And then the coolest part is it helps with brain fog, long COVID. It's amazing. It helps your mitochondria produce more energy. So it literally just fires it up and activates. Have you had one this morning?
I haven't had one this morning. Let's do it.
Are you ready for some?
Yeah,
blue?
I'm gonna. Let's do some blue. Okay.
And we can.
You want to take one?
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
By the way, he stole one.
I stole it from you yesterday.
He was at we sold them out at the last event, and he was like, "Where is there some methylene blue?"
It's hard to get.
And he's like walking by my DJ booth, finds the methylene blue.
Cheers.
Cheers to you.
It's good because you swallow it. Some of them that you put them in your mouth and your whole mouth goes blue. So.
Yeah, no, and so I've got a few other things, and this is just like I literally have this is what I travel with. So especially for those of you that travel a lot, jet lag is a myth. We literally we just posted our protocol we did at Amani on Instagram, and it's quite advanced, right? So like there's the advanced biohacking, which is why we opened up that facility, is that you can do stem cells, exosomes, you can do hyperbaric chamber, you can do PEMF, red light, like everything that ever has worked is under one roof. But what do you do when you travel, right? So I've got this. This is a glutostat, which is a glutathione in a nasal. This is incredible, especially for flights because of the air that you're breathing. Glutathione is a master antioxidant, right? So this is a great way to keep yourself healthy. Then, of course, NAD. This is a neuro NAD. NAD, for those of you that don't know, it's an enzyme. Our mitochondria need NAD for energy production. And after the age of 35, our NAD starts declining. We can't hold enough of it in our cells, nor we can produce enough. So this is why supplementing it on a, again, 3 to 4 times a week is incredible. So I don't have all my stacks here. I also wear these blue light glasses. I think
I've got those too.
Yeah. So those are the ones, especially the minute that you land in a new destination and there is a daylight, you put them on for 20 minutes and they literally signal. It's the blue light spectrum of a morning sun. So it signals your body, this is the time to wake up and adjust. And ideally you connect it with also earthing, because that way your body discharge all of the EMFs from the system, but also grounds you into that area.
Wow.
So
I love that. And you can, what's this, Mido Zen Club? Is that what you're involved with?
Yeah, so we have all of this at the Upper Aeon .com, like on our website. And we basically, so what we did, we created a conscious marketplace for all those things that we actually don't get enough of and that we actually need. So basically we verified, and one of the biggest benefits is we take product category and we literally buy out every single product in the category. We test it, we figure out what's the highest potency, most efficient and most studied, and then we sell those. So it goes through like a very rigorous testing.
Well, you're the test.
Yep, that's always first. Yeah. We always test it. My wife, we see how it feels, how it works, but then also of course we want to validate it on others.
Amazing. So you can get actually all these products on upperaeon.com, and we're going to share a promo code with you. So check it out in the description below. But I think it's CLC15 for those of you who are part of the Conscious Leaders Club. So we're coming to the end of the podcast, unfortunately. We could carry on and on. There's so much knowledge here that you can bring to the table. So we talked about biohacking longevity, but is it right that we're all going to live to 100? Dave Asprey says we can all technically live to 160, which for most people sounds bonkers. But do you really think that people, our generation, are going to be living that long? And is there an ethical problem with people living so long, or at least rich people living so long? Because at the end of the day, rich people can afford all this stuff, right?
So, yes, the most important part is the meaning of life. So if we can change the main purpose of why we're here on Earth, which is happening already, right? That's what we discussed today, was like, whatever it's entrepreneurs, whatever it's people are just becoming more aware, it's going to shift the focus. And so imagine that if our focus is not about control, not about fear, not about, being in this world alone, but rather together, then I think we're going to see a major paradigm shift. The next 10 years are going to be crazy. Like, I think this expansion from AI to what's coming and what's happening is going to change everything to a point where I don't think even 160 or 180 is going to be long enough. Like, I think our bodies, our DNA is meant to be self-rejuvenating, right? For as long as we choose to. And this is what I always say is, like, for me, it's not about the length of life. It's when you feel complete, that you've done what you could, especially when you live in service to others. others, service to the other greater part of us, then that simply you're now living in an action of God, oneness, whatever we might call it. So for me, it's like, as long as we understand that this life is not about us, this is about all of us and more, then every decision that you make will be off of that, which will then alter and trigger, I think, overall our society. Yeah.
Do you subscribe to this new age concept that the earth is evolving, or that human consciousness is evolving?
Yeah, and I think not just that, but I don't think it's the way that necessarily the new age would say it. I think it's happening in our own little buckets. So I was talking about the different towns and stuff. Imagine if we get enough people that are united together, we actually literally, like, in our perceived, reality, you see what you see. The rest you see on TV or social media, right? So 95% of the things that are in this world are actually great. Like, think about the people you meet, the people that you're with. Like, there is not really that much problem besides the regular things we have to go through. 5% of the world, there is wars, there is fear, there's pain, there's suffering. And I think if we focus on 95% of the things that are good, then these 5% will fall off. And I think this new reality is the reality you create in your most perceived future or area around you,
Yeah.
So you can choose to not abide in war. You can choose to live in harmony with the people that you surround yourself with. And even though we're living on the same earth, right? It's this new earth paradigm that's always been there. It's just what focus we lock into.
Beautiful. And just finally, you mentioned that you travel with your wife and your partner and daughter, and with AI, super AI, are you going to put your child through normal education? How does one educate the new generation when the AI will know everything already by the time they're teenagers?
Well,
and what are you preparing her for? What kind of a world are you preparing her for?
I think we're preparing her for the Earth 2.0. So we try to raise her with no fear. We try to, the way we talk to her, we don't hit her. We talk to her as if she's an adult, as if she's equal and even with us. Obviously, we discern what we tell her, what not. But the way I see it is that she can learn. Every child has an innate intelligence, just like us, but their intelligence can be either suppressed or opened. So our main intention as a guides, her parents, is not to control her, not to raise her. We don't raise anything. There's this innate intelligence is way beyond our mind, what we think that we even do. So it's more like the reflection of what she needs when she needs it and how we can best flow within that. And that's kind of what we see now. Like she calls in the right babysitters or the right people, and she like mingles with the most coolest people all around the world. So our goal is we want to do a little experiment. We don't put her to school at all, and we want her to still have friends and, nothing like that. But as she asks for different things to learn, we're going to offer it to her. And, of course, I don't know it all, right? Like we will see as the life unfolds. But I think the next generation can actually use AI in their benefit, because the AI can tell us in a real life what all the decisions, thoughts, feelings we're having as a whole. And that shows us the trajectory of where we're coming, right? Because everything is made up of those thoughts, those decisions, those choices. And if we can get enough data that's reflecting it back to us, if we're disconnected enough, then now we will know things before they happen just off of what we're already doing anyway. So imagine we use AI to clean Earth. We use AI to help us build the right technologies to sustain Earth, to create equality on Earth. And I think there's going to be a time that things will have to fall. There's going to be time that, somebody will have to go, right? Otherwise, this is not going to be an, equal world. And also, we need enough education for the rest of the world to understand what are the true values and meanings of life. Because you travel so much in third world countries and all over, a lot of these people, they seek homes and cars and TVs. So just like what the Western countries, the whole 80s, 90s, right? It was all about flashiness and social structures and how you look and what you wear. Now we don't give a damn about this, right? It's more about like...
certain percentage don't, yeah. But it's evolving, yeah.
It's evolving to that. And so, but now those are the people that they look up to. So that's why everything has to change on the main purpose of life. And when the purpose of life is to fuel more life, to expand consciousness, to really come into this beautiful era, we can literally experience golden age if we all choose to.
Amazing. Thank you, Pavel, for being on the show. Thank you for everything that you do. And looking forward to seeing you at the next System Reset.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Right.